AI is everywhere right now. It's in our conversations, it's on our commercials, in our group chats, and even in our businesses. Depending on who you ask, AI is either the most exciting technological innovation of the last 50 years, or potentially the beginning of the end for us all. So, in today's episode, I want to have a real conversation about it. Ahead, we are going to discuss where AI actually came from. I'm going to share how I'm using AI in both my business as a content creator and in my personal life. I'll also be reviewing some boundaries that I set with AI, which I think are really important, as well as what the future of online content looks like with AI as a factor. This is not meant to be a hype episode or a doom and gloom episode. It's really meant to just be an honest chat and fall somewhere in the middle, because I do think it's possible for us to utilize these tools to streamline our workflows, do things faster, and make bigger strides than we may be able to without them, but not necessarily just become so reliant on them that our brains dissolve into a pile of mush. So before we get into the AI episode, let's do a little create and consume. Something that I've been working on creating this past week was my full face of drugstore makeup tutorial. This should now be live on all of my short form platforms by the time this episode comes out. Everything is so expensive right now, and in some ways, as a beauty content creator, I feel like I can sometimes get a little bit out of the loop in terms of beauty products and recommendations because I get sent a lot of free products in PR, which I'm obviously very grateful for. But recently, I've been thinking about products that I would truly choose to spend my own money on, and I've also been testing a lot of products from the drugstore. I went through and tested a bunch of different products and finally perfected what I consider my full face drugstore makeup routine. So that is now live on all my short form platforms because I love products sold at Sephora as much as the next girl, but I also want to make sure I'm sharing affordable beauty recommendations and giving people options for every budget. I will link that in the show notes if you'd like to check it out. And then as far as what I've been consuming this past week, I am now 3 episodes into Love is Blind season 10. If you know me, you know it's not a surprise that I've once again gotten sucked in to Netflix's reality dating format where people have conversations without actually seeing one another and get engaged sight unseen. I am sure that as a 31-year-old college-educated woman living just outside the biggest city in the world, that I should somehow have my brain wired to be greater than what Love is Blind has to offer me. And I'm here to tell you that I am not, and that I love willingly getting sucked in every single season, even if, and sometimes if it's looking like it's going to be a disaster. What's the Taylor Swift lyric? It's like she puts narcotics in her songs. I don't know what Netflix is putting in Love is Blind, but whatever it is has me coming back every time that there's a new season and watching regardless of what the outcome is. And I gotta say, 3 episodes in, I'm ready to get out of the pods. And I say this as someone who actually likes the pods, or I used to like them back in the early seasons. I'm not really sure what has changed or shifted, or if they're doing extra episodes in the pods compared to what they used to do. I'm not really sure there, but I'm ready to get out of the pods. If you are also watching Love is Blind, leave a comment and let me know if you're watching this episode on YouTube or listening on Spotify. All the other ways to get in touch are always in the show notes, so please reach out and let me know what you are creating and consuming this week too. With that taken care of, let's get into the topic of today's episode, which is really all about AI, both how to use AI to make your life easier and some things that I've been noticing and testing as someone who has pretty seamlessly incorporated AI into my workflow for a little over a year now, I would say, and also how to make sure that AI isn't replacing your brain, because I think this will both really spotlight some of the benefits of AI tools and also highlight some of the concerns, potential limitations, and also just generally icky things that you might want to avoid when it comes to artificial intelligence. So let's take it back and talk a little bit about the origin of AI and the emergence of all of the different AI tools that we now know today. It may feel in some ways like AI has just burst on the scene overnight. Like a couple weeks ago was the Super Bowl, and I swear to God, every other commercial was for a different AI assistant or AI tool. I even went on a double date with Taylor and Connor for Valentine's Day with Andrew, and we ended up talking about AI that day. Like, it really does feel in some ways like it's permeated all aspects of life, and that it's really come to the forefront of a lot of conversations, at least for me in my life. And please, everyone, chime in and let me know what's going on in your life as well, and if this has become something that feels unavoidable or inescapable to you too. Anyway, even if it feels like AI has kind of just appeared overnight, it's really been quietly shaping our lives for over 2 decades. I mean, to just give a couple of basic examples that you've likely encountered in your day-to-day life as a person on this earth with a Wi-Fi connection. If you have ever been on Amazon and clicked on a recommended product, if you've ever been browsing on Netflix and saw that they suggested a movie or a TV show that you might like to watch, or even if you've gone on Google and saw that autocomplete is filling in the rest of the question you were just about to ask, all of that is AI. Those are really AI tools and machine learning softwares connected to specific algorithms that used to just exist really in the background and in the context of those platforms. I mean, that was all kind of going on even back in the aughts. And when we move into the 2010s, we look at Apple launching Siri in 2011. That essentially put AI in our pockets. And we look at Amazon launching Alexa in 2014. That really brought AI into our homes. Hopefully, I didn't set off any of your Alexa devices. Sorry if I did, if you were listening to this episode in your home without any headphones on. And then throughout the 2010s, AI continued to further develop through machine learning. So even thinking about things like your Spotify weekly playlist, if that's the music and podcast app that you use to even listen to this episode. And I think the TikTok algorithm, the infamous For You page, is an example of AI being brought to the forefront to not just suggest things that you might like, but to really read into every single cue that you give to a piece of content, whether it's watch time, sharing, saving, liking, commenting, even stitching or recreating that video to give you more and more content related to that topic. You can even see it like in the dialogue of TikToks. For example, if I made a video about, I don't know, my favorite Hoboken coffee shop and someone commented like, I'm commenting on this video to stay on Hoboken TikTok, or I'm commenting on this video to stay on small cafe TikTok, AI was working in the background to curate our feeds and give us content based on the signals that we were providing the app. So in many ways, we have interacted with AI, like I said, within certain systems and other tools. But in the last 5 years, with the shift to generative AI, I feel like that is where we've really started to hear a lot more about it and have seen and experienced the explosion of the use of AI firsthand. Instead of just predicting or recommending with generative AI, now AI tools can be used to write, to create, to edit videos, to mimic human patterns, to design, to code, you name it. The task list is expanding every single day. And it is really interesting to think about, like, for the first 20 years, like in the age of modern computers, people having small home computers as a regular staple in their homes through the early aughts and 2010s, that AI was kind of quietly organizing and helping us in the background. And now it's a tool that we can actually choose to actively collaborate with. I really feel like that is the big shift and the best way to sum up what the last 20 years has looked like when it comes to this technology. That's really a look back at the last 2 decades of how AI has evolved in the general context of the world. And I thought it would also be helpful to share my firsthand experience of how AI has changed for me in the last few years, or at least the changes that I have noticed since I have first started using it. 3 years ago, I made a video for my YouTube channel where I asked ChatGPT to write the script for me. And in the video, I acted it out just as ChatGPT told me. That's about the first 3 minutes of the video. If you want to just even go watch that, I will link the video in the show notes. And I spend the rest of the video dissecting it and talking a lot about why I don't think ChatGPT should be writing my video scripts, and how it was kind of dumb, and how I could do a better job even just off the cuff if I had to improvise something and didn't even have time to write a script, and so on and so forth, about why it was crappy and why my version was better. And this was a trend that I believe was started by Casey Neistat, and he had created a video, like ChatGPT made this video for me, and I had seen some other creators recreate something similar. So that was my motivation behind making the video in the first place. And the prompt that I gave ChatGPT back then was just write me a YouTube video script in the style of Austen Tosone's YouTube channel. And you'll see if you watch it, the advice was very vague. I would say it was not really in my voice. It didn't really pick up on little cues or things that it might know about me had I been using it a lot more. And it just sounded pretty robotic at the end of the day. I don't think it made for a very engaging video. So now, almost 3 years later, I thought I should try giving this prompt to ChatGPT again and see what it comes up with, and if it can kind of catch on to some of these subtleties or the things that it knows about me and my YouTube channel, and give me something that is a little bit more substantive or has come further than the initial script that I made, all those years back. And, 3 years ago, my YouTube channel also looked pretty different. I did a lot more sit down videos and content creator tips versus now my channel is a little bit more lifestyle focused. I do more vlogs. I show more behind the scenes. I try to create really interesting angles and things like that when I'm filming. So 3 years later, I did give it the same prompt, like to write me a YouTube video script for my channel. And I asked it to come up with a new idea, so not something that I had shared already. And needless to say, this technology has gotten better. Obviously, now it also has the added benefit of, a year's worth of me talking to it about business strategy, about content ideas, and all these different things. But I was kind of blown away by the detail in the video script. So I obviously won't read you the whole thing or anything, but the video concept that it came up with was a week of outfits as a full-time content creator in New York City. And it said, this blends fashion, creator life, New York City as your backdrop, and behind-the-scenes realism, all of which your audience loves. Which, yes, is true, and also reflects recent fashion content that I've made, and the fact that I don't just do sit-down content creator tips anymore, but I do always still like to weave in the behind-the-scenes for creators at any opportunity I get. So the fact that it came up with this video idea was actually kind of crazy. Like, I was reading through it and I was like, should I make this video? This is a good idea. And the specifics, like the big thing that I wrote down that jumped out at me was that it knows my schedule. So it was like, Monday is usually your admin day. So you probably will be in like a comfy sweater and leggings. I'm reading it and I'm like, And Tuesday's your filming day. Case in point, today is Tuesday. What am I doing? I'm filming my podcast. So maybe you'll be in something a little more polished. Like, I don't know, I have my jeans on and this comfy sweater that I'm renting from Newly that I actually really like. But like, guys, that is so much more detailed. It's so much more specific. And it actually was a good idea that I'm now considering making for my channel versus the previous script was so laughable that I basically made a whole video mocking it. And I actually literally just yesterday or 2 days ago, I forget when, got the little pop-up that was like, hey, you've hit your limits of the free version here. And so I upgraded. I said, great, $8 a month, put me on ChatGPT Go, take my money. Because at this point, it's kind of hard to picture my business without it, which is so weird to say. And by the way, if you're an AI skeptic, I promise that part of the episode is coming. We will get to that. But I think if I also go into my next section now and kind of share how I'm using AI in my influencer business, it'll give you a sense of how often I am asking for information and what kind of tasks I'm willing to outsource with an AI assistant. Because I would say that I probably am not going to chat more than a couple of times a week, but when I do go there, I spend a lot of time on whatever task I am working with. So a big thing for me is ideation and brainstorming. So that one very detailed script that I was just telling you about is actually not usually what I go to ChatGPT for, because again, once I have a topic, like I am a content creator, that is my profession, and I am good at filling in the blanks, coming up with the creative concepts, but sometimes I just want to know what a trending topic is. If I give it my top 5 performing YouTube videos from last year, can it give me 3 suggestions for each of those 5 videos, meaning that now I have 15 related ideas that are not just me, going over the same topic time and time again, but are me creating like a web of bingeable content and topics that I can expand on and connect back to. And even just say, like, for example, some recent videos I made. One is dressing for the dark autumn color season. And in that video, I reference my finding my personal style video where I got my color analysis done. So here is me styling for my color season. Do you want to know how I found out this was my color season? You can go watch this. It also happened to notice that my packing and trip preparation vlogs do pretty well on YouTube, so it asked me to keep that in mind for any upcoming trips that I have this year, which is something that I'm already doing and planning content around. So the ideation and brainstorming comes in handy for me so much when I feel like I am so tapped out of ideas, I'm tapped out of information, and I say, I don't know what to create today, which again, I don't run out of ideas that often, but when I do, going to a relentlessly excited and endless idea machine that is ChatGPT to help me fill in the blanks and at least get going, even if it's not the final idea, even if it's not the final draft, like to give me another jumping off point for me to iterate on, helps me keep going and helps me stay consistent. Another big one after idea generation is really refinement of creative assets. So sometimes I'll ask it to help me come up with a hook for my video or a more interesting angle or way to position a video. So for example, like I was filming a New York Fashion Week vlog last week. I'm not sure what I ended up titling the vlog. I'm filming this episode just a little bit early so I can batch my content today. But I don't want the title of that video to just be New York Fashion Week vlog. So I might go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I have a New York Fashion Week vlog. Here's a few things that happened throughout the week. Can you help me structure a title that is clickable or optimizes for engagement or click-throughs or whatever that metric is? And I could also give it a title that I'm thinking of and ask it to create a version that's a little more friendly, create a version that's a little more clickbaity, like not even to use them all, but kind of just to see in real time examples of how it would look in relation to other things. I have also uploaded YouTube thumbnails and asked ChatGPT to give me feedback, like, is the text legible? Is it really engaging? Does the information seem accurate? Is it clickable? Is there something I could do to make it stand out more? It even caught a mistake for me. I was doing a video review of my vlog camera and I put in the title and showed it my thumbnail and it was like, well, in the title you say that this is the updated version, like, but in the thumbnail you reference the old version. Did you want to fix that? And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, like I didn't even see that. I also did a series on my YouTube channel in December called the Glow Up series, which was all about getting ready to show up as your best self for the new year. And I had a couple of video ideas for that series, but I did give them to ChatGPT and ask to refine the ideas, to maybe think of if there was any topic that I was missing or anywhere where I could fill in the blanks. And that is how I was able to finalize the video concepts for that series. I have used it to help with email replies and positioning of rates, also awkward conversations about, I don't know, late payments or something gets added to a contract that I didn't agree to. Like, there's just a lot that goes in behind the scenes with influencers, especially in terms of negotiations and email exchanges. And even sometimes it comes down to just structuring one sentence in a way that makes sure that the tone is in check, make sure I'm communicating clearly what I'm asking about. And it's almost like having a coworker or a second set of eyes in that regard to review it and help you make sure that you are getting your point across and that you are being polite, professional, however else you want to sound. I've also used it for crafting things that kind of show up in search or behind the scenes functionalities that aren't necessarily, I don't know, visible to you guys. So I recently started a Pinterest account for the podcast, and I've been using ChatGPT to help me come up with episode descriptions and titles for the pins, which don't really have any bearing of whether or not you click on a pin and end up checking out the episode, but it's all that behind the scenes metadata and SEO that Pinterest uses to understand what my pin is about and then show that content to the right people. So not having to manually do all of that from scratch is one big time saver. If you've ever watched any of our short form video clips that promote our episodes on social media, those clips are all designed on a software built on AI called Opus, and it essentially allows me to upload the long video episode to the platform, and then it spits out like between 20 and 30 clip options for me to share on social media. Would it be great to hire like a real video editor to do all of that and make everything super customized? Yes, but is getting a templated version of it and then being able to quickly sort through and pick like two of the best ones, saving me time in terms of not having to watch through the whole episode and individually cut out the clips, and money in terms of not needing to outsource for an additional role for the podcast? The answer is yes. I even used ChatGPT when I was setting my goals for 2026 to make sure that they hit the SMART goal criteria and also that they felt like the right goals based on everything else I've discussed wanting to do in my business with ChatGPT over the years. That honestly isn't even really an exhaustive list of everything that I use AI for in my business. If you guys want maybe a more in-depth episode just about that, or even like a YouTube video where I actually show you some of the things that I'm doing, leave a comment and let me know, or send me an email, reach out. I would be interested in hearing more about how I might be able to help you guys and show you exactly what I'm talking about in real examples. That's obviously a lot of work examples, but I also wrote down a few ways that I've used AI in my personal life as well, because I would say that the split is probably like 85% work stuff, 15% personal life stuff. I'm not really going to it with as many personal questions or things like that. But here are a few things that I did come up with. Canva, which you guys know I'm obsessed with. It's one of my favorite design tools. I've done partnerships with them. I've been an affiliate and stuff of theirs for many years. Like, I'm truly obsessed with it. It makes me look like I know what I'm doing when it comes to graphic design. I have used their Magic Edit software to edit photos, even for like personal use. There is really sophisticated object removal now. You can go in and change backgrounds. Maybe you took a picture of you and a couple of friends and you just happen to be standing next to like the world's ugliest trash can and you didn't realize it in the moment. Now with one click, you can get rid of that. And then you could share it, you could send it around. I mean, there is never going to have to be a bad photo in your future ever again. I also used Canva Magic Edit with background remover tools and other features to plan out and create mockups for our home renovation. I also did even ask ChatGPT to take my Canva mockup that I made, which was essentially like a flat like collage, if you can picture that, and give me like a three-dimensional visual of what it actually could look like. And it didn't do a bad job. And that was honestly, about 6 to 8 months ago anyway. So who knows how much it's even improved in the time since I last tried to use it for that. But just anything that makes communication easier with like contractors and things like that. I mean, I am not an interior designer. I am also not great at drawing or explaining my vision and translating it, because I feel like if I just described generally what I wanted and did not have specific visuals, there would have been a lot more mistakes in our home renovation, which also would have cost time and money. These are like our two most valuable resources, by the way. And when AI can step in and help with one or the other, I really feel like that is the huge benefit of it that we obviously all can understand and wrap our heads around. Because on the home renovation front, sure, some things are obvious. If you're installing a vanity, it has to be where the pipe is. But I don't know, for even like the kitchen, we have this giant slab of quartz that is the backsplash, and I wanted it to be cut at a certain angle. If I wasn't able to draw that out, and I actually did it in Canva and I made like a little mock-up of it, that would have been a really expensive and costly mistake to fix had I not communicated clearly what I wanted the cut of that stone to look like. I also asked ChatGPT about my fitness goals for the year earlier this year. I basically like logged into my Peloton app, saw how many times I worked out last year, and Peloton tracks your total cumulative minutes working out. And I basically said, hey, in 2026, I want to increase my total minutes. If it was like 4,000 last year, I want to hit 5,000 total minutes this year. right now, here is my weekly workout schedule, and here's what I'm thinking about adding. Can you make me a new schedule that gives me even some wiggle room if I have to miss a week here or there? And like it went in and did all that math for me. And as someone who has always really struggled with math, I can't tell you how much easier it was and how I wouldn't have gotten there myself or made that plan fully on my own without any assistance, and how grateful I was that like the answers were just clearly right there in front of me. And for the last one, anyone who's ever been on a bachelorette trip knows the absolute horror of the math that goes along with it. It's like the world's most demented word problem. It's like literally opening a test in school and the question's like 13 girls go on a bachelorette trip to Savannah. If the total cost of the Airbnb is X and each girl owes Y, what would they owe if one girl is coming a day late because of a work trip and she shouldn't have to pay for the first night? And if one girl is leaving a day early and she shouldn't have to pay for this? And then what do we do if this person is gluten-free and can't contribute to the cost of this meal? Don't get me wrong, I loved being a matron of honor, which I was last year for Taylor's bachelorette, but some of the math was just actually making me feel like an idiot. And I have long struggled with math, so this was not new for me. But I remember when Taylor and I were first planning things out and we were talking about the cost of the house and some of the activities and stuff, I was like, I'm just going to tell all of this to ChatGPT and have it do the math. And it did. And then I was done. Do you know how much time that probably saved me? And stress from not like telling the group the wrong thing and then having to double back on it. Anyway, I think you see the benefit there. Let's move on and talk about where I set boundaries with AI, because as much as all of the benefits that I just described are great and all of the use cases feel valid and help me move faster, make decisions quicker, avoid stressful conversations with a dozen other girls when planning a Savannah bachelorette trip, there are some concerns and hesitations around AI. And I think that for me, like personally, the biggest one is that I like having my brain. I like to problem solve on my own. I like to get to the solution myself. I find that really satisfying. I think that's probably why I like, I don't know, board games and Jeopardy and mystery novels and a whole host of other things that require me to think critically and come up with my own answers, even if they're not perfect. And then I do think that there are also a lot of considerations surrounding AI and my job and my industry of content creation, and even more broadly, you know, the world of media, whether that's traditional publishing, magazines, newspapers, radio stations, or whether it's more digital media like vlogs, podcasts, Instagram reels. So I thought it would be kind of helpful to just go through a couple of like my rules for AI, because I think that I am someone who has been really open about AI and has been open to the idea of it and has found ways to integrate it into my workflow. But I am also someone who wants to protect creators, photographers, writers, everyone essentially who feels like their jobs could become obsolete or change really drastically when this technology is considered. And for me, I'm going to stick with talking about this in the context of my world that I'm familiar with, because I don't know if I am the best person to explain AI and some of the concerns or threats in terms of politics or the environment or the stock market or other threats. So if you were listening and waiting for me to bring up, you know, politics and the environment, obviously I know those are factors. I don't feel like I'm the best person to speak on them. If I can find any relevant information from trusted sources on those topics to share, I will try to link some stuff in the show notes for you guys. But at the end of the day, this is a podcast about life in the era of digital content. So I have chosen to frame the conversation about AI in that respect today. So hopefully that makes sense, but let's get into some boundaries that I personally set with AI. I think the biggest one for me is I never just copy and paste an answer that I get from AI. Every single thing that ChatGPT says to me is either just an idea or like a reflection based on a question that I've asked, is a jumping off point for me to take whatever we were talking about and go off and create something on my own, or is really just an answer to a question in some ways too. even though AI has evolved and even though ChatGPT is getting better at, mimicking my voice or understanding how I talk and who I'm talking to, it's still not always going to be 100% perfect. I feel that we're not at the point yet where AI can 100% replicate me in something that I would say. And even as we get closer and closer to that point, I am never just going to blindly copy and paste something from ChatGPT and pass it off as my own somewhere else. It always still needs to pass by me. It always still needs to be refined. It always still needs to have me inject my own voice or own tone into it in some way. So I think it's very important to make clear that I'm not using ChatGPT to write blog posts for me on my blog. Keep Calm and Chiffon, my blog that I've had since 2012, that is like my child, essentially. That is something I've been working on building for 14 years now. That is really my voice, my portfolio. Like, you can go in and tell as you're reading it, I hope, that it is my voice and it's me who's actually sitting there typing the words. That's not something I would use ChatGPT for. I have, however, and my virtual assistants for the podcast have used ChatGPT to create blog posts for each episode because I'm not trying to write the great American novel on Create and Consume's blog posts. Those are meant to be really utilitarian and functional so that if I mention something in an episode, you can easily find it. Would I, in an ideal world, love to have a thoughtful writer come in and actually write from start to finish a great blog post that sums up the episode and catches every ounce of nuance and humor at yes, but also at the same time, as it stands right now, I don't make any money from the podcast. So anything I'm investing in the podcast, whether it is this new microphone and chair setup that I've had now in the last few episodes, or whether it is virtual assistant help, is all coming from other parts of my business because I do think this is a worthwhile thing for me to invest in. But it's not like there's an endless stream of money coming in where I could say, oh my gosh, I could hire this writer, but instead I'm going to use AI. It's like, I'm a small, scrappy business owner. I would love to do that. And I would love to especially support, a smart, creative female copywriter in an ideal world. That's not the reality I live in right now. So to be scrappy, to work with what I've got, and to continue to show up in what could at least be described as 80% the best way that I would like to be showing up is something that I'm going to take and use AI for. I am also not comfortable using AI when I get hired on to do consulting for creators or brands. Like if I'm coming up with a strategy for you or helping you, I don't know, launch your blog or whatever number of things that people hire me for consulting about, that's not something I'm outsourcing to AI. Like I am there to really do a deep dive in your content to help you problem solve, and all of the ideas in a session like that will come from me. The same way that if a magazine hires me to write a story for them, I'm not using AI for that either. You're hiring me, a human, to write for you. So that's what you're going to get. You're going to get an article written by human me. And I am also not using AI to talk to my community for me. I know that there are, and actually this used to be a thing that content creators would even hire virtual assistants to do. I feel like back in, I don't know, 2016 to 2019, if I recall correctly, on Instagram, some creators would hire people to literally respond on their behalf. And I know that there are AI tools that can do it for you, but beyond the comment the word jacket to shop my look, link automation tools that could lead to affiliate income where it's very obvious that that part is automated, I personally am not comfortable right now having AI reply to my audience on my behalf and pose as me. If I reply to a comment of yours, if you take the time to leave a comment on anything I've created, a podcast episode, a blog post, a TikTok video, you name it, I want to respond because I am genuinely so happy that another person took the time out of their day to connect with me and my content, and even more than that, took it one step further to leave a comment or let me know that they enjoyed it. That to me is still kind of phenomenal. And the fact that we can do all that on the internet is something that will never cease to amaze me. And it's something I take to heart. And I would hate to I don't know, run into someone one day at an event who loves my content and comes up to me because they think I recognize their handle because I'm always responding to their comments, and then me have no idea who they are because I've never responded to any of their comments and it was a robot the whole time. Like, there's just something about that that does not sit well with me. So that's not something I would personally be doing. And another thing that I'm really not comfortable doing right now is using generative AI to create images that look like me or my home, but are not, and to try to pass those off as though they are real. And I wasn't even really thinking that deeply about this until my friend Caitlin put out an article for her Substack. I will link the article in the show notes if you want to go read it. She runs an agency that does affiliate marketing for content creators, and she writes about affiliate marketing in her Substack, which I believe goes out every week on Mondays. And she did an entire newsletter talking about how creators are using AI tools to essentially create fake images and use them to link, I don't know, affiliate products and things. So the examples that she was able to create, even just using Gemini, were so scary and so real. And they're in her newsletter. So again, if you want to check it out, I will put it in the show notes. But I think it is becoming increasingly difficult already to tell what's real and what isn't online. There are plenty of things that I have seen online where I'm like, oh, is this AI? Like when Taylor Swift first went on Travis Kelce's podcast and a photo of them got uploaded, I was immediately like, is this fake? Like, did they actually do this? Until I saw, it came from a verified account. It was posted to that podcast's actual Instagram. And I think that being skeptical is important because I think we are quickly losing the plot when it comes to media literacy. Again, I feel like that's for another episode or someone who's more of an expert on that to talk about. But the fact that you can like go to Gemini or any image generation software and basically say, hey, like, I don't know, these earrings are the best selling product right now on Revolve. So can you make a picture that makes it look like I'm holding them in the palm of my hand with like this chair in the background? The fact that you can do that now is crazy. It's actually insane. So that's not something I'm interested in doing right now. I am not really interested in any avatars of myself or any of that. Like I'm not there, and I don't really think I will ever be there. When it comes to content creators and AI, I think the biggest question we all need to be asking ourselves in 2026 is essentially, why would someone come seek out my content versus go to ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Copilot, Perplexity, etc., to get an answer to their question or to get inspiration for something? Because after talking to a lot of friends, I am noticing that they increasingly are using ChatGPT almost as a search engine or in lieu of going to TikTok or Instagram to look for something. And I think content creators need to be asking, like, why would someone choose to come watch my content, which could in theory be kind of general information, versus going to an AI assistant and getting really specific, detailed, personalized advice on something. I talked a little bit more about this in an episode I did a few weeks ago called What's Really Working on Social Media in 2026. I will link that one in the show notes if you want to hear me talk more about that, because I feel like I kind of covered it in that episode. But those are all things to think about. And I think we need to accept that AI is here. It's not going anywhere. And what we choose to do about that is entirely up to us. And to wrap up this episode, I think the benefits are pretty clear and obvious. I think that AI can really help streamline systems and processes, which is something I have been trying to do in my business as a self-employed creator for basically 5 years at this point. And I'm always looking for ways to be more efficient, to better keep track of things, to improve upon what I'm doing already. I personally find self-development to be really satisfying, and that I find it helpful when there are true metrics or things I can track and look back on to see what progress I'm making, because I don't necessarily have my progress measured in a traditional sense in a traditional job. So anything to help me grow is really key. And I also think that it has helped me with consistency and preventing burnout simultaneously. It's helped me with consistency because I very rarely run out of ideas at this point. If I ever even feel close, I can open up ChatGPT explain some videos that have done well recently, or maybe even mention a couple of other creators who I find inspiring and ask ChatGPT to think about what those creators are doing well, if there are any topics they cover that maybe I haven't done on my channel yet that I could try putting my own spin or take on. That has been really helpful. And then I do believe it's also helped prevent burnout because I am able to focus less on some of the menial back end tasks, like again, adding metadata to blog post images or back end descriptions to pins on Pinterest and stuff like that. The fact that I don't actually have to write all of those individually from scratch means that I can spend more time on coming up with YouTube video ideas or attending a networking event where maybe I can meet someone who I'm going to collaborate with in the future, or pitching brands who I want to work with. And, being self employed, like I kind of knew what this was when I signed up for it. It means that I wear a ton of different hats. It means that I don't have coworkers in the traditional sense. It means that I do everything from tasks that an intern would do if my company was multiple people, all the way up to CEO, big picture decisions and tasks. And I love that about this job, but it can also be really overwhelming at times to be the sole decision maker, the one person who is in charge of everything, and to even offload a little bit of that mental burden to ChatGPT, who never is tired, who's on at all hours of the day, who's always very, very willing to help. I'm not going to lie, it's kind of nice. And even at the end of last year, I sent thank you notes to people who I had worked with throughout the year. And I went into ChatGPT and I said, you might think this is stupid, but I did it. I said, thanks for all your help this year. Like, you might actually think that something's wrong with me, and that might sound a little kooky to you, but you know what? We live in a crazy world. So if that's the weirdest thing you've heard this week, maybe you haven't been out there as much as you should be. All right, guys, hopefully that's a silly note to end on after talking about a pretty serious topic. So please let me know what you think of today's episode. I would love to hear from you if there are ways you're using AI, if you're completely anti-AI and you think that I'm crazy. Leave any and all comments down below. I truly welcome all feedback, especially on a topic that I know can be divisive and multifaceted in some good ways and some bad ways. So let me know all of your thoughts. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you all in the next episode.